Hope you all are enjoying your food. We're moving back to live now, and we ask you to really have a listen to this. Next up, we have a powerhouse conversation on Black entrepreneurship. I'm excited to introduce three guys who know what they're talking about. Grammy Award-winning record and entertainment executive Amir Windom, co-founder and CEO of The Gathering Spot, Ryan Wilson, and Black Enterprise Editor-in-Chief, Derek Dingle.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here and to host this Hope Global Forum's luncheon plenary session on If You Build It, the Power of Black Entrepreneurship. I wish I was there live, but in this era, of innovation, we're doing this in hybrid fashion. Let me first thank my good friend, John Hope Bryant, and his incredible team for developing such a powerful and vital program as the Hope Global's Forum. Let's give him and his team a round of applause. So, as the #1 digital media brand with more than 8 million monthly unique visitors, Black Enterprise continues to celebrate and elevate Black entrepreneurship. Given the challenges and permutations of the past year, our platforms and the platforms of entrepreneurs like Ryan and Amir are more needed now more than ever. Before we get into our conversation, I wanted to put this conversation in context with a few stats. Recent Block Advisors study revealed that 53% of Black owners have reported their company's revenues have dropped by half or more since the beginning of the pandemic versus 37% of their white counterparts. We further reported that another poll revealed that Black entrepreneurs are more likely to have laid off employees and have 58% see that their financial health is at risk. But with the slew of corporate pledges, we, in response to historic patterns of racial discrimination, vigorous Black business growth and development is needed, not only to advance our communities and institutions of color, but to strengthen our nation as a whole. And in fact, a recent McKinsey and Company study found that achieving revenue parity between Black-owned and white-owned businesses could add an estimated 290 billion, yes, billion would it be, to our economy. So having said that, I'd like to, for Ryan, who is the CEO of the Gathering Spot, fantastic innovative model, as well as Amir, to share their business models and how they pivoted during the pandemic. Ryan, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, first, it's an honor to be back. I just love being able to see people again in settings like this. A little bit about the Gathering Spot. So I started the business out of my apartment in Washington, D.C. with a simple idea of creating a space where people could come together. So there's really two ways to understand what we do at TGS. The first way is through space. We have event space where we've hosted every type of event that you can imagine. We have a restaurant and bar that's open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and chef-driven. And then we have workspace. I've long maintained, though, and this is going before the pandemic, that the business that we were actually in was the community business. Our youngest member is 21, the oldest is 89. We bring together people from all walks of life in the cities that we operate in. You will find creatives, entrepreneurs, those that work for some of the largest companies in the world, all spending time with one another. I like to say, if you come to our restaurant during lunch, you'll see suits and ties sitting next to t-shirts and jeans, and that's actually what we want to happen. We think the magic happens when those folks meet each other. So our work consists of activating that group day to day, and we're in the process of building gathering spots across the country.
That's powerful. Before I go to Amir, when you started the Gathering Spot, was the intention to create this connection across the country with these different, to foster collaboration, networking to, in some cases, drive Black business development?
It was. I mean, so I had the idea in the wake of Trayvon Martin's death and George Zimmerman's trial for his murder. After he was acquitted, I got an email from some friends that said, "What are we going to do?" And I said, "We need a space to be able to tackle this issue, but really any other issue that we think is important within the community." So the idea of having the conversation in multiple cities, but then also having many different types of conversations has always been at the core of how we've thought about the work.
Okay. Well, Amir, share with us your business model. You have worked with some of the most powerful artists in the country, from Bruno Mars to Kanye West, and you've also helped drive some of the leading brands in the world. Whether you're talking about Coca-Cola, Kodak, share with us your business model, how your business model has changed due to the pandemic, or has it changed during the pandemic? And where do you see your entrepreneurial efforts going forward?
Yeah, so thanks for having me here, and I appreciate you guys being here while you're eating, which smells amazing. Can't wait to partake. But I've had a very interesting career thus far. I've worked in many sectors on the entertainment side, from obviously being a record executive and on the film and TV side as a producer, and then and a music supervisor and a marketing guy. And so what I've learned is the only way to survive in the entertainment business, you have to continuously defeat yourself, right? And you have to defeat yourself because in our business, I remember I wrote a song called Happy with Pharrell Williams. And I remember we won a Grammy for it, and right after that, we're at the after party, and they're like, "Amir, congrats on the Grammy. What's next?" I'm like, "Dang, I can't even enjoy this moment. I gotta think about what's next already." But that's the nature of our business. It's creativity. I think in the pandemic especially, it put the importance of creatives on the front lines. And I've always wondered with companies, even when I was working at Atlantic Records, I remember thinking, like, when budget cuts came, they typically started cutting out the creatives, the people who created new products, new marketing campaigns, things that would drive attention to our brand and our products. But I think now a lot of people see and value the importance of creativity as a whole, and I think that's one simple model. But we had to get very disruptive to a certain extent too. We in the entertainment biz, especially on the music side, one of our problems is there's an oversaturation of content. There's just so much music out there in the world, and so what we had to do was honestly go back to some of the old school tactics of, as an A&R, who plays instruments, who can actually sing, who can actually dance. And so it really was reverting backwards to a certain extent to look at how Berry Gordy and Quincy Jones, what their mentality was when they were trying to stand out in kind of a world where African Americans, especially on the music side, were not heard. They weren't respected as much. They weren't getting the big budgets. And so we kind of had to. I went back and looked. I watched Motown. I watched a lot of different things that kind of inspired me to put me in the mentality of what do I do when there's too much. And what it really took me back to was just the creativity. So even with Black News Channel, I helped launch a TV network called Black News Channel. We're the world's first 24-hour live news and original programming major TV network that is focused for African Americans. And we've since grown. We launched in the pandemic. We launched in February of 2019. Well, we launched in February 2019, but before our business could really boom, the pandemic happened. So I mean, we were shaking in our boots. But again, we had to get creative. We had to produce a lot of content to draw people in. So now we're up to 80 million homes. And I can tell you the easiest thing that we did was really focus on the creativity. That's the business model that we had to change.
Well, I agree with that, Amir. Creativity is actually, the power of Black entrepreneurship. We've always had to make something, from, very little, or sometimes just from scratch. And then also, in addition to you looking at the old school, Black Enterprise, doubled down on digital technology. In fact, we, no longer engage in a regular print publication. All of our content is virtual content, whether you're talking about the content that we have on our website and the series of virtual conferences and summits and programming that we developed last year. And we've enjoyed more sponsorship than we have, pre-COVID. And it also created a more profitable model for us. So as we go forward, Black businesses need to take these lessons as they're restructuring their business models. Really want to shift real quickly. You talked about corporate America. Over the last year, we've seen these corporate pledges in terms of support of Black business development. From your perch, do you say that these pledges have are effective? Does more have to be done? How do you see this working for the business owners that come to the gathering spot, Ryan?
I think like anything, it's about execution, right? So it was good that a lot of energy was put into a conversation that we needed to have last year, but we've got to make sure that we fulfill the promises that we discussed. We're not there, right? And I think that if we don't keep our eye squarely focused on the goals that we actually want to accomplish, one of my favorite quotes is, do you really want to win or look good losing? And I think that that's the question that we have to ask with all of this work. Do we really want to win? What does that take? Or are we comfortable with looking good losing in this space? I think too often when it comes to diversity and inclusion conversations, we've been comfortable looking good losing, right? And so in order for us to have this moment be a little bit different than times in the past, the things that it takes to win have to be continuously the things that we are highlighting and pushing to actually make real examples and things that are tangible.
In this context, Amir, what does winning look like in terms of the pledges, to address past racial inequities and provide opportunities? How does winning look from your vantage point in terms of the corporate pledges and African American businesses engaging in doing business with corporations as we go forward?
I think the win is not being limited by money. I think we, sometimes, and I mean, I'm the guy who gets calls by corporations to say, hey, we want to do something for an HBCU and we want you to facilitate the partnership. And I tell them early on, the money's not enough. Thank you for the check, but at the same time, if you want to really create a partnership with us, find something we got to figure out something that's going to be consistent, ongoing. And the check isn't it. Checks are the easiest thing you can write, but what you can give us is your time. You can give us, your resources, your partnerships. And so a lot of times, I've been in the mix with a lot of these big announcements of money. I've helped push a lot of business towards a lot of HBCUs, but the one thing that on the corporate side I said is, look, we have to create a partnership. And so I can help you meet your goals as a corporation, but also we need to make sure that there's something ongoing that's tangible for these HBCUs so that in 20 years we're not, having to do a fundraiser because, we're struggling to make ends meet. And then the other side, like Ryan said, is holding our institutions accountable too. That's one side of it as well, that it has to just be a viable partnership. And I think that's it. It's just not limiting the partnerships to just, hey, cut us a check, thank you. Because there's so much more power and resources. And one thing I've done I went to FAMU, and what I've done with HBCUs is I'll speak, right? But I always meet with the president and I say, hey, having me come here and speak for an hour is cool. Hopefully the students were inspired while I was there, but likely not. So how can we figure out from an ongoing way that I can come back or bring some of my resources or ideas here to create long-term, sustainability and partnership? And I think that's the same model I've taken to corporations, and I encourage all of us to do. You know, it's really just a matter of the word consistency.
Yeah, I think both of you hit on something in terms of winning. It's the partnerships. When we look at what Operation Hope is doing with Shopify in terms of driving 1 million Black businesses, in terms of the accelerators that have been developed, in terms of financial institutions like J.P. Morgan Chase, which is one of the sponsors of this event, that has worked with Black-owned banks and community development financial institutions to provide access to even more capital to Black businesses. And then in terms of our partnership, and I'd like to mention Chase because that's one of the most prominent partnerships, we're a part of their Advancing Black Entrepreneurs Consortium, which is a part of Advancing Black Pathways. And in that partnership, we share with them those things that need to be done to fortify Black businesses, the challenges that Black businesses face. And then from that, we evolved an ongoing webinar series to help smaller businesses scale up in this environment, pivot in this environment, and gain capital in this environment. But at the same time, we've informed Chase as well as other financial institutions how to connect with Black-owned businesses, which a good number of them don't even use large banks because they feel that they're going to be turned down or turned away for loans. So the partnership requires, one, communications, and that requires active listening. And then also it requires identifying what are the challenges as well as the needs of Black entrepreneurs to serve them. So it's about communication.
Yep.
I know that we're tight on time, but what I'd like to, this session is about the power of Black entrepreneurship. And what I'd like you, Ryan and Amir, to share is your power moves. Share a couple of your power moves that will help drive Black businesses forward during this environment as we're on the cusp of a post-pandemic business environment. I'm being extremely optimistic. We will get there. And then what do we need to do to further support or to bring along the young entrepreneurs that are coming up? And Amir, that refers to some of the entrepreneurs that will hail from some of our great HBCUs. So I'm going to start with Ryan, and then Amir, why don't you chime in?
Well, thank you for letting me go first. Earlier, he said I wrote a little song called Happy, and I was like...
That's old, man. It's an old song.
I was like,
Nobody even thinks
where
about that song anymore.
So I'll get my answer out of the way. I think that we have to just stay squarely focused on what's possible with Black-owned businesses. We saw last year, again, a lot of conversation about all of the negative things that were happening in the community, but I work in a space where I see the possibility each and every day about what happens when businesses have the opportunity and the resources to scale. There is no magic bullet here. I mean, I think to Amir's point, it took us a while to get in this situation. It's going to take us a while to get out, right? And so the idea that one check or one session is going to get us to the place that we need to be isn't the way that we should look at it. But, right, we should continue to talk about this issue with all of the optimism that really should exist. And again, that sounds simple, but if you look at the way that we have this conversation most of the time, to me, it feels really negative on all ends, right? It feels like the businesses will never have the opportunity to scale. I don't buy that. And if you're talking about power moves, I don't know. I mean, I'm in the community business, and I'm fortunate to work with a lot of good people that have helped our business now work nationwide on bringing people together. And so if that's a power move, I'm proud to say that I get to do that work. But moreover, I think that it's exciting each and every day to watch the companies that we work with hire their first person, hire their first 100 people, and then come back to tell the story. That is actually what's happening with Black-owned businesses, and we have to continue to highlight that.
Okay.
That's a great segue. Orion, I'll tell you, the Gathering Spot is a power move, brother.
Thank you.
Big time power move. I literally was thinking about you last night because I was like, I wonder how, I'm sure people ask you this afterwards, but just how long it took you to develop this idea that's so much bigger than a business. It's literally like you created a community organization where people can gather, and we'll talk about that offline, but I really was thinking about you last night. So, as far as, I think a key part of, when we talk about power moves, I'll tell you the biggest power move that I make all the time is sitting on an airplane and talking to the person I'm next to. Why is that a power move? Because a lot of times I'm a Delta guy. A lot of times the person I'm sitting next to doesn't look like me. We're from completely different backgrounds. And I speak with them to understand them as a human. And then I speak, so a lot of my conversations with them have nothing to do with business initially. So this is a power move because what happens is a good friend of mine, Joseph Tripodi, who's the chief marketing officer at Coca-Cola, he and I met on an airplane. And our relationship became close because we were able to create a safe space to have a conversation about very touchy things. We were talking about race. We were talking about the inequalities in the African American community. And so what he did was he said, Amir, I'm interested in seeing how I can help you. So flipping that back to, Ryan is a good example of that. Ryan is using his power, he's executing his purpose and not his power. And I think that's the key part is, we use our platforms to extend power to others. And I think that's the greatest power move out there. It's just how you continue to add value to the people around you. And I think that's obviously what this forum is for, is to continue to add value, but we have to be open-minded to one another. I think that's a key to understand each other and kind of help kill some of the racial divide, is just talking to people that don't look like you, that don't have the same background, and having a mentality to help. I really think that's a very power move in our business that we don't talk about as much, and I think that's been a very key power move of mine, is just kind of not seeing color sometimes and just seeing people as humans.
Yeah, I think it's, as both of you said, it's bringing together like minds with a shared vision, but can complement one another with different skill sets. It's about building our ecosystem. It's about creating new models for financing and new models for partnership, so we can scale up, which is very important, so we can have an impact on Black employment, our communities, and as well as wealth building efforts. So I know we're out of time. This is great conversation. I've enjoyed spending the time that I have with both of you, Ryan and Amir, and look forward to us having a sequel. Hopefully in the form of content on blackenterprise.com. And at this point, I'd just like to share with everyone that the power of Black entrepreneurship has been discussed. It's one of creativity, innovation, partnership, and it's also one of keeping lines of communications open across our communities, across generations, and across institutions. So I'd like to thank both Ryan and Amir for being a part of this session, and we look forward to a dynamic conference over the next day and a half that will further inform how we can move Black businesses, Black communities, Black institutions forward as we seek to close the wealth gap.
And Derek, next time you have to promise that you're going to come here. It's not as fun with you on a screen. I'm just going to be honest with you.
You're
look good,
absolutely right, Ryan. It's this screen thing is old, but I will be at the Gathering Spot. We've had a great time there, but next time I will be on spot, in person, up close and personal.
All right.
Gonna do.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.